then another 9, and finally 3. Those winning numbers are 0, 8, 9, 9, and 3. Have a great night.
America's Funniest Home Videos can be seen at 12:30 a.m. so that we may bring you the following Channel 2 special.
I'm Tim McVeigh, Vice President and General Manager of WSB TV. For over a decade, our partnership with Emory University's Carlos Museum has given you a rare access to some of the most important discoveries of our time. We've taken you behind the scenes of some of history's greatest mysteries, from the missing royal mummies in Egypt to a first look at the King Tut exhibit to tonight, the unveiling of a rare piece of history that dates back 4,000 years. We'll explore the secrets behind Emory's forgotten mummy. I hope you enjoy it.
A 4,000-year-old Egyptian mummy stored away in Georgia.
It had been forgotten in a crate for decades.
Now carefully restored. Tonight, we'll reveal the story behind his journey to Georgia, the clues discovered about his life, and the delicate process used to restore him. Now, The Forgotten Mummy with Jovita Moore and Justin Farmer.
Good evening and welcome to The Forgotten Mummy.
The newly restored mummy is one of the rarest in the world and the oldest in North America.
He's part of a spectacular exhibit at Emory's Michael C. Carlos Museum. Each artifact reveals a new secret about Egypt's Pyramid Age.
The exhibit is spectacular.
Egyptologist Janet Richards came face-to-face with Pepe at the Carlos Museum. She'd studied and written about this Egyptian king, but had never seen this famous statue until now.
Incredible piece.
Pepe is front and center in Life and Death in the Pyramid Age, the Emory Old Kingdom Mummy. This exhibition includes objects on loan from Europe and the Brooklyn Museum in New York City.
Very rare. A lot of these objects are extremely rare.
Maybe none quite as rare as this, a 4,000-year-old mummy from Egypt's Old Kingdom.
It had been forgotten in a crate for decades.
Forgotten and stored at Emory University most of the time since 1920. Emory discovered this rare footage of students viewing the mummy back in 1931. Theology professor William Shelton acquired the mummy from Abydos. Experts believe it is the oldest Egyptian mummy in the Western Hemisphere.
When I first came here, I thought, gee, it'd be great if we could restore it and put it on display. But it really took a long time before the sort of technology got up to the speed where we could even think of attempting it.
One look at the before images and you understand why they waited. This mummy did not look like most others. The Old Kingdom mummy was literally in pieces until a delicate conservation.
For as long as I've known the body, his head has lived in a separate box. The hands and feet were completely unwrapped. So when you looked at the body, you were seeing the bones of the hands and feet lying on the coffin board amid dust and debris of linen.
Carlos conservator Renee Stein was part of the team who began work in June 2010. The challenging process included CT scans and x-rays of this unusual patient.
And then let's position his ear.
Late this summer, we were there as the team put the final pieces in place.
The majority of the linens on the body are original, and most of the wrapping that you look at is what is left to us from antiquity. Our treatment was not to unwrap the mummy, nor to rewrap him in modern linen, but to present the original wrappings in the condition that they come to us in as stable a capacity as we could.
The mummy is a striking centerpiece of an exhibit that includes many important objects from the end of Egypt's Pyramid Age. You get an inside look at how that country revered its dead even before it mastered the art of mummification.
It's a wonderful combination, what can be seen here, of objects that illustrate the Egyptian idea that death is only an event in life.
Some of these are some of the finest objects, Egyptian objects, or really art objects that we've ever had at the Carlos War in Atlanta.
The art is spectacular, but most Carlos visitors will be first drawn to the mummy. Carbon dating proves the mummy is 4,000 years old. Medical technology and old-fashioned digging provided other clues about who he was. It's not every day you see a 4,000-year-old mummy roll into Emory University Hospital's radiology department. The Carlos Museum provided this video of the high-tech testing. Later, Dr. William Torres explained to us what he saw.
We have some CT scans here, and what it shows is that all of the bones were in the wrong place. The ribs were in the pelvis, a portion of the pelvis was in the mid-abdomen. The vertebral bodies from the spine were all in different places. So the inner portion of the mummy was not in the correct place.
Dr. Torres says this patient was easy to scan for two reasons.
The mummy can't move and they don't breathe.
The Carlos team and other experts were hoping the CAT scan or x-rays might help explain how the mummy died, but that wasn't the case.
He was in remarkably good shape and no obvious cause of death. These early mummies, very little soft tissue is preserved, so there's not a lot to go on. So unless there's something that's really traumatic that causes death, we won't always see it.
So what we're seeing here, this is the skull. The skull was not attached to the body at this point.
Dr. Torres did spot something interesting in the mummy's unattached skull.
Yes, in the skull you could see there was a little desiccated structure that looked like a walnut that most likely represented the brain.
And the Emory scans revealed something else.
The bones were what we call well mineralized, which meant that the patient was probably, the mummy was in probably very good condition.
A Carlos curator, Dr. Peter Lacavera, says he's right.
We know that he was a fairly young man, probably in his 20s when he died. So he probably hadn't attained a official status yet, but he could eventually have become, again, one of these local governors or an important local official.
Remember, this mummy came from Abydos. Emory theology professor William Shelton went to that ancient cemetery in 1920 to search for one of Egypt's earliest mummies.
It was an important cemetery for the local governors at the end of the Old Kingdom, so around 2300 BC.
The University of Michigan has been overseeing an excavation at Abydos since 1999. Dr. Janet Richards is leading the project. She and Dr. Peter Lacavera have been working together there. They've uncovered many things about Emory's Old Kingdom mummy.
The way in which this mummy was prepared for the afterlife was incredibly time-consuming and, in the value of the times, incredibly expensive. A lot of care taken.
Although we don't have his name preserved, we know that he must have been part of this either local family or certainly a member of the entourage of these local elites. So a very important person in the local government.
The Carlos mummy is positioned on his side, and Dr. Richards says that's a revealing clue, since ancient Egyptians would bury their dead so the loved one would face the rising sun.
From his position, we are pretty confident that he's from the south end of the cemetery.
We may never know his name or how he died, but the Old Kingdom mummy continues to reveal secrets from ancient Egypt.
As we learn more and more about mummification in different periods, we may see that choice of materials changes.
Initially, no one at Emory knew how this challenging restoration would evolve.
It has come together perhaps better than we ever might have imagined.
The revolution in Egypt this year interrupted work at Abydos and sent the Americans home early, but they will return. Their goal is to learn more about the Old Kingdom, the age of pyramid building. In September 2008, I was given an opportunity to travel to Egypt. Channel 2's coverage of a special King Tut exhibit here in Atlanta took us from the Valley of the Kings to the Great Sphinx and Pyramids of Giza.
It was a wall to separate between the pyramids and the workmen.
The Old Kingdom mummy at Emory dates back to the end of the Pyramid Age. It was a time when Egyptian rulers stayed in power for decades.
What happens is the pyramids were sort of giant stimulus packages, if you will. They were the economic motor that kept the society running. But having these long reigns, of course, we're not building lots of pyramids, and so the economy starts to fall apart at that time.
Early in the Old Kingdom, important Egyptians were buried near a pharaoh's pyramid. Later, they chose hometown sites like Abydos, about 700 miles south of Cairo on the west bank of the Nile. Archaeologists knew in 1860 the tombs were here. A University of Michigan expedition discovered the actual structures more than 100 years later.
These tombs were actually constructed to evoke the squareness of pyramids, and in the same relation as kings' tombs in the same period were taking at Saqqara in the north.
Carlos Museum curator Dr. Peter Lacavara analyzed pottery found at Abydos. His research helped archaeologists conclude the cemetery was from the 6th dynasty of the Old Kingdom.
In 1999, we went back and started to excavate and found Winnie's tomb, and found his father's tomb, and found another elite tomb, and a whole sort of web of elite officials' tombs that were sort of nested around these.
Winnie served 3 kings and was considered the governor of Upper Egypt. Scholars say he represented a shift in power during the Old Kingdom.
That sort of signals the kind of breakup, the lessening of the prestige of the king and the growing importance of the provincial nobility.
Emory's Old Kingdom mummy is from that important changing time. The restoration will only add to the interest in Egypt's first great age.
When we have the Great Pyramids and the Sphinx. So it was Egypt's first flowering as a great, important civilization.
Still ahead, the Emory professor who brought the Old Kingdom mummy home decades ago.
At an exhibit like this, for us, it brings him back, and you can hear him talking and showing us these things.
How one man created a living legacy, linking Egypt and Atlanta. Plus, the goodwill gesture that strengthened the bond between our two countries. See Egypt's gift in return.
This is a real mummy.
And some of the mummy's newest fans have never even heard of the Old Kingdom.
Mind-blowing.
How the Carlos is making education a priority for students of all ages. Ahead. The Forgotten Mummy is a family-to-family special. Brought to you by Northside Hospital, Kroger, AirTran Airways, Scana Energy, and American Signature Furniture.
American Signature Furniture, raising awareness and money for the Empty Stocking Fund, providing backpacks for children in foster care through Totes to Tots.
This is American Signature Furniture. They've raised over $600,000.
And a pink leather chair for auction. For the Avon Foundation Breast Health Center at Grady. American Signature Furniture, dedicated to the needs of the people of Metro Atlanta.
Right now at Kroger, use your Plus card and you'll earn 2 times the fuel points when you buy select items. Just look for the 2 times fuel point symbols when you shop. You'll find it store-wide on products you buy all the time. Earn fuel discounts faster at Kroger.
It's easy to save on fuel at Kroger.
Shop at Kroger and save 10 cents a gallon at participating Shell locations or up to $1 a gallon at Kroger fuel centers.
It's easy to save on fuel at Kroger.
Get more value
For the way you live.
every day at Kroger.
Women are strong, smart, and independent. But when it comes to breast cancer, every woman needs help. Northside Hospital has diagnosed and treated more cases of breast cancer than any other hospital in Georgia. So whether you need to learn how to do your first breast exam, to have your yearly mammogram, or to receive breast cancer treatment, the Breast Care Program can help. Northside Hospital, providing a lifetime of care. Call 404-845-5858.
Excuse me, have you seen a shirt?
Wi-Fi from GoGo on every AirTran flight.
When sales rep Jeff Tucker stays at La Quinta, he wakes up a brand new man in one of thousands of brand new rooms with a sweet HD flat screen and a Texas-sized workspace. And you know what Jeff can do after all that?
Boom.
We'll take 90,000 units.
Here's a clue. He's selling ice.
Nobody needs a clue.
Fine. La Quinta Inns and Suites take care of you so you can take care of business. Book your next successful stay at LQ.com.
La Quinta.
You're watching The Forgotten Mummy, a family-to-family primetime special.
The Old Kingdom mummy is part of an impressive permanent Egyptian collection at the Carlos Museum.
Professor William Shelton brought many of those items to Atlanta, and now 2 families and generations of students are sharing his legacy.
So he was really a founding faculty member.
Professor William Shelton was one of the first 6 faculty members hired in 1914 for a new school of theology, a school organized a year before what's now Emory University was officially chartered.
He was very knowledgeable in ancient languages and ancient religions. So I think that explains, at least in part, his connection and his interest in archaeology.
The director of Emory's manuscript archives and rare book library showed us items from the Shelton collection.
He put both clippings and photographs in some of his scrapbooks, and this identifies the picture as being W.A. Shelton.
Shelton and 4 other American scholars left on Christmas Day, 1919. Emory's president wanted him to bring home artifacts to illustrate the Bible, but the university did not have the money to send Shelton to Egypt. Atlanta businessman John Monge did.
He enjoyed history very much, and he was very interested in Egypt. And this was meant something to him to send someone who would be able to bring artifacts back.
On the exhibition's preview night, several generations of the Monge family met 2 of William Shelton's grandchildren. Both families share a sense of pride in the artifacts now part of the Carlos Museum collection.
An exhibit like this, for us, it brings him back, and you can hear him talking and showing us these things.
Shelton's grandchildren remember seeing the Old Kingdom mummy years ago, before the restoration.
In fact, when Bill and I were growing up, the artifacts were kept in the basement of the dental school. That was the museum. Yeah. So we're thrilled with what has happened here.
Professor Shelton's 9-month journey ended in September 1920, when he returned to Emory with the Old Kingdom mummy and many other treasures. Nearly 100 years later, those artifacts and his own words and pictures are still bringing ancient history to life.
They're part of the history of the university, and they're really his legacy.
William Shelton may have been the first from Emory to travel to Egypt, but he was certainly not the last. The relationship between the Carlos and Egypt began decades ago and flourishes still, thanks to ongoing excavations and a single goodwill gesture. Dr. Peter Lacavara is curator of the Egyptian collection at the Carlos Museum. He's been part of several excavations in Egypt during his career, including the ongoing project at Abydos. Lacavara is understandably proud of the current exhibit, which helps bring that site to life.
Many of these objects are unique and very rare art treasures, some of the finest Egyptian objects that have come to Atlanta at all. So we're very fortunate to have these here for this exhibition.
William Shelton's finds in 1920 started the Carlos's Egyptian collection. That collection greatly expanded in 1999. Lacavara purchased mummies and other artifacts from a private museum in Niagara Falls, Canada. His vision set in motion an important chain of events.
So far, everybody has come away convinced and giving us added information that seems to suggest that this could well be the missing royal mummy of Ramses I.
Longtime WSB TV news anchor John Pruitt documented Emory's discovery that one of its newly purchased mummies was Ramses I. The pharaoh had been missing from Egypt for generations. In 2003, the Carlos Museum made the decision to send him home.
The American ambassador said we did more for American-Egyptian relations than he'd been able to do in 2 years.
3 years ago, I went to Egypt in advance of a special King Tut exhibition at the Atlanta Civic Center. Our crew spent time in the world-famous Cairo Museum, the Valley of the Kings, and Giza, home to the Great Sphinx and pyramids. We also learned why Egypt's head of antiquities chose Atlanta to debut an amazing new Tut collection.
The first city that Zahi suggested was, I want to bring this to Atlanta as a thank you for returning Ramses back to Egypt.
The Ramses return only added to an already close relationship between Egypt and the Carlos. But Egypt is not the only country you can learn about inside these walls. The museum's African, Asian, Greek, and Roman collections are also spectacular. Every gallery is a chance to bring the world, its people, and cultures home to Atlanta.
Goes along with Atlanta's reputation as being an international city, it also should have a representation of the great arts of all the cultures of the world.
An ancient history lesson here in Atlanta.
Creepy and awesome that it's right here in front of me.
See the new exhibit at the Carlos Museum through the eyes of a child. Next.
The lights, the talent, the thrill of Broadway in Atlanta. Channel 2 travels to New York City and reveals inside stories and Georgia connections to some of the most popular shows. Rehearse on stage with Billy Elliot.
Anything's possible if you put your mind to it.
Meet the Bon Jovi member who wrote the music to Memphis and an interview with the real Jersey Boys. It's the local stories most people haven't heard. Broadway in Atlanta, coming up next on Channel 2.
All across Georgia, people are switching their natural gas service. They're making the switch to Scana Energy. It's easy. So easy, people are hardly noticing the change. They are noticing the savings. Because customers who switch to Scana Energy from another natural gas provider save an average of 15% a year. So we make it easy to switch and a snap to save. Call or go online today. Save 15% plus an extra $60 your first year.
Kaufman Tire, mascot audition, hammer.
As a Kaufman Tire hammer, I'll show people how we hammer down high prices. There's a high price. Double up.
We don't need an obnoxious mascot to tell you that we guarantee low prices every day. That's Kaufman Tire.
Right now, save up to $80 on a set of 4 select Goodyear tires. See store for details.
Now that's a big deal.
It's Nissan's big deal. Save big. For a limited time, get 0% financing on our most popular models. Get $1,500 back on Altima. Or save $1,525 on Rogue. Visit ChooseNissan.com. Test drive at your local Nissan dealer today. Hurry, the big deals won't last.
Hey, Kevin, we won.
Where did you get a fire-breathing goat?
The choice is yours. Fortune cookie that predicts stock market. Rabbit that cry time. How much for the goat?
Should have gone with the rabbit. Play your favorite bar game anywhere and win up to $100,000 every 4 minutes.
The Carlos Museum's mission is to preserve and educate.
The Old Kingdom mummy is just another opportunity to reach Georgia students of all ages.
This is a real mummy.
This group from Norcross Elementary School quietly approached the Old Kingdom mummy.
Is that his real ear? So this is a real life body. Why are they so small? I thought they were gonna be really tall.
Many had questions. Some were initially afraid.
One of the girls during the tour, right before we saw the mummy, she asked if it was going to be alive.
This is a real life body, and the restoration of this was very, very, very amazing.
With that question answered, the students eagerly edged closer to something they'd never seen before.
They have mummies, and that this is my first time seeing a mummy like that, and it's very exciting for me. It's creepy and awesome that it's right here in front of me, and that used to be alive like a long, long time ago.
These are all just fragments.
One mission of the Carlos Museum is to bring history to life. The education director says there's nothing more rewarding than watching students learn.
It's not the same thing as reading about them in books and seeing photographs. It is a
qualitatively different experience to stand in front of a 4,000-year-old mummy of a human being and be able to stand and observe it, that, close up on your own time.
Horner says seeing these treasures from Egypt's pyramid age may spark a lifelong fascination for some of these students. 10-year-old Ari was interested even before he got his first look at the 4,000-year-old mummy.
I like to read, and sometimes I read Egyptian books, and I think they're fascinating because they wrap up the bodies even when they're dead and try to give them new life.
The Carlos hosts 18,000 school children every year, and the number's even higher when you count all the college students who wind up here.
It's a good teaching opportunity for all ages, and I think that they're engaging the younger students as well as the college students, as well as, the older people, and so it's a great learning opportunity. Sahara.
Marler is part of the ongoing excavation at Abydos, where the Old Kingdom mummy was laid to rest centuries ago. But she's not the only Atlanta professor planning to bring her students to see artifacts from that ancient cemetery.
The thing about Emory and about the Carlos Museum is they have just wonderful collection, not only of ancient Egyptian works of art, but they also have Nubian, they have Near Eastern, and it's just a wonderful teaching tool for my students to be able to come over here and experience art other than just on a screen, but really see it up close.
So all of that.
The Norcross students will learn about both ancient Egypt and Greece during the school year. Seeing the mummy, the artifacts, and art from Egypt's Old Kingdom is a great start.
It's just fascinating because when we're at school, our teacher just says it and we can't actually see it. So the chance of seeing it is just mind-blowing.
Your chance to see the only mummy of its kind in North America when The Forgotten Mummy continues here on Channel 2.
All across Georgia, people are switching their natural gas service. They're making the switch to Scana Energy. It's easy. So easy, people are hardly noticing the change. They are noticing the savings. Because customers who switch to Scana Energy from another natural gas provider save an average of 15% a year. So we make it easy to switch and a snap to save. Call or go online today. Save 15% plus an extra $60 your first year.
Starbucks Via is planted the same, harvested the same, and roasted the same as our other premium coffees. It only makes sense. It would taste the same. So try it for yourself. Buy a pack of 100% natural Starbucks Via Ready Brew. We promise you'll love it. Or we'll send you a bag of Starbucks coffee. It's the Starbucks Via Taste Promise. Look for it at Starbucks stores and where you buy groceries.
With the Lumix GF2 from Panasonic, beautiful pictures come in small packages. And with one of our smallest interchangeable lens cameras ever, you can even shoot 3D pictures one moment, and the next, stunning full HD video. The Lumix G Series from Panasonic. LED doesn't have to stop for amazing photos. Get up to $150 off this zoom lens from these and many other retailers when you buy a Lumix GF3.
Now the big guy comes up next.
Where's the beef? Where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
Where's the beef? Where's the beef?
Question answered. Introducing Wendy's thickest, hottest, juiciest cheeseburgers ever. Dave's Hot and Juicy. With new toppings and a buttered toasted bun.
Nice shirt.
No, don't avoid Beth. You're rocking new glasses and a lot of spandex. In a good way.
Now get 2 complete pairs of eyeglasses, including no-line bifocals, just $99. VisionWorks.
That works.
When it comes to handbags, you just can't beat Ross. You'll find the top brands, the latest styles at unbeatable savings. Like this one, $62 at department stores. At Ross, it's less than $20. Ross, unbeatable.
You can spend an hour or you can spend a day inside the Carlos Museum's new exhibition.
And there's plenty of time to see Life and Death in the Pyramid Age, the Emory Old Kingdom Mummy. Be sure to go to WSBTV.com for ticket information.
Channel 2 is proud to support Emory University and the Carlos Museum as they bring ancient Egypt to Atlanta.
Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great night.
A major hole in airport security exposed Thursday at 5.
The lights, the talent, the thrill of Broadway in Atlanta. Channel 2 travels to New York City and reveals inside stories and Georgia connections to some of the most popular shows. Rehearse